I gave her everything, my savings, my trust, my dignity, and when there was nothing left to take, she just disappeared. This is the story of how a 70-year-old man from Alabama lost himself in Thailand and woke up with nothing but regret. I was sitting on that Phuket beach watching the sunset turn the sky orange and pink when I saw her walking toward me with 2 cold beers in her hands. Verisa. God, she was beautiful. I've kept the darker parts of that memory locked away for years. I thought if I didn't speak them aloud, they wouldn't be true. But then, just a few nights ago, I received an email that stopped me cold. It wasn't from a scammer or a business contact. It was from Mark, a longtime viewer who has been commenting on this channel since I barely had 50 subscribers. Mark simply asked, "You always talk about the recovery, but you never talk about the fall. Why are you hiding the moment you realized it was over?" Reading that, I felt the air leave the room. At first, I felt a flash of anger, a defensive instinct to close my laptop and walk away. But as I sat there in the quiet of my apartment, that anger dissolved into a heavy, aching shame. My hands were actually trembling over the keyboard. I realized Mark was right. I haven't been honest with you, not fully. I've been showing you the scar without telling you how deep the cut actually went. Before I finally let this weight off my chest, I want to ask a favor. If you value this kind of raw honesty, even when it's ugly, please hit that like button and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. Knowing there are real people out there listening makes this feel a little less lonely. I also need to say a massive thank you to those of you who keep coming back, week after week, watching me stumble and get back up. You are the reason I have the courage to turn this camera on. You aren't just viewers to me. You're the support system I wish I had back then. So Mark, you asked for the truth. Here it is. Let me take you back to where it all started. But when you're 65 years old and you've spent the last 3 years convinced you'd never feel anything again, happiness hits different. It feels like a second chance. Like maybe God or the universe or whatever's out there decided I deserved one more shot at this thing called life. Margaret died 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 6 weeks from diagnosis to funeral. I still remember sitting in that hospital room, holding her hand while the machines beeped, watching her slip away piece by piece. The doctor said she wasn't in pain. I don't know if that was true. I hope it was. After she was gone, I thought that was it for me. I really did. I thought I'd used up all my chances at feeling anything real. I was 65 years old, living alone in Victoria, drinking whiskey every night just to fall asleep. My daughter Sarah kept calling, but I never picked up. What was I supposed to say to her? That I was fine? That I wasn't sitting in Margaret's favorite chair every evening, talking to a ghost? That I wasn't wearing the same clothes for 3 days straight because I couldn't remember when I last showered? The house felt like a museum. Everything exactly where Margaret left it. Her reading glasses on the coffee table, her coffee mug in the sink, her lavender soap in the bathroom that I couldn't bring myself to throw away. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and reach across the bed, forgetting for just a second that she wasn't there. And then I'd remember, and the loneliness would hit me like a freight train all over again. Then my buddy Rick from the marina mentioned Thailand. We were sitting on his boat, drinking beer, not really talking about anything important. He said it casually, like it was nothing. "You know what you need, Lee? You need to get the hell out of Victoria. Go somewhere warm. Thailand's cheap. Weather's good. Might do you some good to get out of your own head for a while." I didn't think about it too hard. I just knew I needed to be somewhere that wasn't Victoria, somewhere that didn't smell like Margaret's lavender soap, somewhere I could breathe without feeling like I was drowning in memories. So I booked a ticket, one way to Bangkok. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have hotel reservations. I just needed to go. I needed to be anywhere else. I landed in Thailand on a Tuesday morning in March, jet-lagged and half-drunk from the flight. The heat hit me like a wall when I stepped outside the airport. Thick, humid, the kind of heat that makes your shirt stick to your back. I caught a bus to Chiang Mai because someone on the plane said it was beautiful. I checked into a cheap guest house and I just started walking. That's when I saw her, Wanida. She was working at this little cafe near the old city walls. It was one of those places with mismatched furniture and cats sleeping on the chairs. She was behind the counter, wearing a yellow apron, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. When she smiled at me, I swear to God, something in my chest unlocked. Something I thought had died with Margaret. "Good morning," she said. Her accent was thick, but her smile was genuine. "You want coffee?" I nodded. I couldn't stop staring at her. She was beautiful in this effortless way. No makeup, no pretense, just natural. She poured my coffee and set it down in front of me. Then she did something that changed everything. She looked at me, really looked at me, not through me, not past me, at me. "You are from America?" she asked. I shook my head. "Canada. Victoria." She smiled wider. "Canada. Very cold, yes?" I laughed. It was the first time I'd laughed in months. "Yeah, very cold." She leaned against the counter. "You here for holiday?" I nodded. Just needed to get away for a while. She tilted her head, studying my face. "You look sad. You okay?" Nobody had asked me that in years. Not my daughter, not my friends, nobody. And here was this stranger in a yellow apron in Thailand asking me if I was okay. I felt my throat tighten. "I'm fine," I said, but my voice cracked. She didn't push. She just smiled softly. "You look like you need friend. I show you Chiang Mai. Real Chiang Mai. Not tourist place. I finish work at 2:00. You want?" I should have said no. I should have just finished my coffee and left. But I didn't. I said yes, and that yes changed everything. She met me outside the cafe at 2:15. She was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, sandals, a small backpack over one shoulder. "Come," she said, waving me forward. "I show you my favorite places. We spent the whole day together." She took me to temples I'd never have found on my own. Wat Chedi Luang with its massive crumbling stupa. Wat Phra Singh with the golden Buddha. She explained the history, the rituals, the meaning behind everything. She bought me mango sticky rice from a street vendor and laughed when I didn't know how to eat it with my hands. "Like this," she said, demonstrating. "You take rice, you take mango, together. Very delicious." I tried. I made a mess. She laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. "You are very funny," she said. I felt my face flush, but it wasn't embarrassment. It was something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. She taught me how to say hello in Thai. Sawadee krap. I felt like an idiot saying it, but she clapped her hands like I'd just learned rocket science. "Very good. You sound Thai now." We walked through the night market as the sun set. She pointed out food stalls, handicrafts, things she loved. She asked me about Canada, about my life, about what brought me to Thailand. "I lost my wife," I said quietly. We were sitting on a bench, eating grilled pork skewers. She stopped chewing. "I'm so sorry," she said. And the way she said it, I could tell she meant it. "How long?" I swallowed hard. 3 years. She nodded slowly. "That's why you look sad. You miss her." I nodded. I couldn't speak. She reached over and took my hand, just held it. "It's okay to be sad," she said, "but you cannot be sad forever." She would not want that. I looked at her. This 24-year-old girl I'd met 6 hours ago, and I felt seen, really seen, for the first time since Margaret died. We sat there as the market buzzed around us, and I felt something shift inside me, like a door I'd nailed shut was slowly creaking open. That first trip lasted 2 weeks. I saw Wanida every single day. We fell into this easy rhythm. She'd finish work and we'd explore. Sometimes we'd just sit by the Ping River and talk. She told me about her life, how her mother died when she was 12, how her father Somkid raised her and her younger brother Kasem alone in a small village near Chiang Mai, how they didn't have much money, how she moved to Chiang Mai to work, to send money home. I told her about Margaret, about Sarah, about the fishing boat I used to have, about the life I used to live. On my last night, we sat by the river again. The water was dark and slow, reflecting the city lights. She was quiet. I could tell something was wrong. "What's the matter?" I asked. She shook her head. "I'm so sad you go tomorrow." I saw tears in her eyes. Actual tears. "I never meet man like you before," she said. "Kind man, good heart. Most Farang come here. They just want one thing. But you different. You see me. Not just Thai girl. You see me." I felt my own eyes burning. "I'll come back," I said. She looked at me like she didn't believe me. "You say that now. But you forget me when you go home. You find nice Canadian lady. You be happy." I took her face in my hands. Her skin was soft, warm. "Wanida, I'm not going to forget you. I promise. I'll come back." She searched my eyes. "You promise?" I nodded. "I promise." She kissed me then, soft at first, then deeper, and I felt something I thought had died. Hope. I flew back to Victoria the next day, but I wasn't the same man who'd left. I sold some stocks, cleared out Margaret's things from the spare bedroom. I didn't tell Sarah what I was planning. I knew she'd try to talk me out of it. I booked another flight for 6 weeks later. When I landed in Chiang Mai, Wanida was waiting at the airport with flowers. Real flowers. Orchids. When she saw me, she dropped them and ran. She jumped into my arms like I was a soldier coming home from war. "You come back," she whispered into my neck. "You really come back." I held her tight. "I told you I would." That's when I knew I was in trouble. The good kind of trouble. The kind that makes you feel alive again. Over the next 6 months, I made 3 trips to Thailand. Each time, it got harder to leave. Wanida and I fell into this rhythm. This life. She'd take me to night markets, teach me more Thai phrases, introduce me to her friends. We'd rent a scooter and ride out to rice fields and just sit there, not talking, just being. I felt young again, not literally. I still had bad knees and my back hurt in the mornings and I couldn't eat spicy food without paying for it later. But inside, where it counts, I felt like I had a reason to wake up, a reason to plan for tomorrow, a reason to keep going. On my 3rd trip, Wanida asked if I wanted to meet her family. "They want to meet you," she said. "We were lying in bed in my hotel room. My father, he asked about you many times. He want to know who is this man who make his daughter so happy." I felt nervous. "Are you sure that's a good idea? I mean, I'm a lot older than you." She rolled over to face me. "Age doesn't matter. What matter is here." She put her hand on my chest. "You have good heart. My father will see that." We drove 2 hours north to her village. The landscape changed from city to countryside. Rice paddies, water buffalo, small houses on stilts. We turned down a dirt road and parked in front of a concrete house with a tin roof. It was surrounded by banana trees and chickens pecking at the ground. Some kid was waiting on the porch. He was maybe late 50s, thin, with deep lines around his eyes and hands that looked like they'd worked their whole life. He didn't smile when I got out of the car. He just stood there, watching me. I felt like I was being sized up. Wanida spoke to him in Thai, fast, urgent. He responded slowly. His voice was rough. Then he looked at me and nodded. He extended his hand. I shook it. His grip was weak. Wanida translated. "My father say welcome to our home. He say thank you for being kind to his daughter." I nodded back. "It's my honor to meet you, sir." Kasem, her brother, came out of the house. He was 22, skinny, wearing a knocked-off Barcelona jersey and basketball shorts. He barely looked at me, just glanced up from his phone, said something in Thai, and went back inside. Wanida's face tightened. "He say hello," she told me, but I could tell that's not what he said. I could tell by the way her jaw clenched. We ate dinner outside on a plastic table. Somkid didn't talk much. Wanida kept filling my plate, telling me to eat more, translating bits and pieces of conversation. Kasem sat at the end of the table, headphones in, scrolling on his phone. At one point, Somkid coughed. Hard. A wet, rattling cough that made Wanida jump up and get him water. He waved her off, but I saw the worry in her eyes. After dinner, we walked to a small temple at the edge of the village, just Wanida and me. The sun was setting, turning everything gold. "My father is sick," she said quietly. I stopped walking. "What's wrong?" She looked at the ground. "His heart. Doctors say he need medicine every day. Very expensive. I send money when I can, but it's not always enough." I felt this pull in my chest, this need to help, to fix things. "How much does he need?" I asked. She shook her head quickly. No, I don't tell you for money. I just tell you because you ask about my family. I don't want you to think I ask for things." But I saw the way her eyes flickered. I saw the way her hands twisted together. I saw the weight she was carrying. "Wanida, let me help." She looked up at me. "I cannot ask you this. You already so kind to me." I took her hands. "You're not asking. I'm offering." "How much?" She hesitated. "Maybe $2,000. For medicine. For 6 months. $2,000. That was nothing to me. I had savings. I had my pension. I had stocks. $2,000 could change her father's life. "I'll send it tomorrow," I said. She started crying. Real tears. She put her face in her hands and sobbed. "You are angel," she said between gasps. "You save my father. You save our family." I held her while she cried, and I felt like $1,000,000, like I'd finally done something that mattered, like I'd finally used my money for something good. I wired the money the next day from a bank in Chiang Mai. Wanida called me that night, crying again. "My father say thank you. He say you are good man, best man." I felt my chest swell. I felt important, needed, valued. 2 weeks later, I asked her to marry me. We were in Bangkok for a few days. I'd never been, and she wanted to show me the city. We went to the Grand Palace, rode a boat through the floating market, ate street food until my stomach hurt. On our last night, we went to this rooftop bar, one of those fancy places with infinity pools and views that make you feel like you're floating above the world. The city was lit up below us like a circuit board, millions of lights stretching to the horizon. We were sitting at a table by the edge. She was wearing a blue dress. Her hair was down. She looked so beautiful it hurt. I'd been thinking about this for weeks. I'd been carrying the question around like a weight. "Wanida," I said. She looked up from her cocktail. "I know this is fast. I know people are going to think I'm crazy. I know I'm old and you're young, and this doesn't make sense on paper." She started to interrupt, but I kept going. "But I love you. I love you more than I thought I could love anyone again. And I want to spend whatever time I have left making you happy. Will you marry me?" I didn't have a ring. I just had the words. And for a second, she just stared at me. Then she said yes. She didn't even hesitate. She said yes and kissed me hard, and people at other tables started clapping. I felt like I was 25 again, like I'd just won the lottery. I paid for champagne for everyone in the bar. Strangers toasted us, wished us luck, called me a lucky man, and I believed them. I believed every word. The next day, I started the visa process to bring her to Canada. I didn't care how long it took. I didn't care what it cost. I just wanted her with me. I wanted to wake up next to her every morning. I wanted to build a life with her, a real life. The paperwork was brutal. I had to prove my income, prove my intent, prove that our relationship was real. I sent photos of us together, emails we'd exchanged, bank statements showing I could support her. Wanida had to fill out forms, get a medical exam, do an interview at the Canadian Embassy in Bangkok. I flew over to be there with her. I wanted her to know she wasn't alone. The immigration officer was a woman named Miss Ratanakorn, middle-aged, stone-faced, the kind of person who'd seen every scam in the book. She asked Wanida questions in Thai first, then in English. "How did you meet Mr. Leland?" Wanida answered perfectly. "I work at cafe in Chiang Mai. He come in one day. We talk. We become friends. Then more than friends. Miss Ratanakorn wrote something down. And why do you want to go to Canada?" Wanida looked at me, then back at her. "Because I love him. Because I want to be his wife. Because he make me happy." Miss Ratanakorn's expression didn't change. She looked at me. "Mr. Leland, You understand this is a big commitment. You're sponsoring her. You're responsible for her. I nodded. I've been married before, ma'am, for 33 years. I know what commitment is. She studied me for a long moment. I couldn't read her face. Then she stamped the application. You'll receive a decision in 8 to 12 weeks. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. 3 months later, the visa was approved. Wanida called me screaming. We do it. They say yes. I can come to Canada. I booked her flight that same day. The day she landed in Victoria, I thought my life was complete. I picked her up from the airport, and when she came through arrivals, dragging a beat-up suitcase, wearing jeans and a hoodie, I felt my eyes burn. She dropped her bag and ran to me. I'm here, she whispered. I'm really here. I held her so tight I thought I might break her. Welcome home, I said. I drove her to my house. She was quiet in the car, staring out the window at everything, the trees, the ocean, the mountains in the distance. So beautiful, she kept saying, like a dream. When we pulled into my driveway, she got out slowly, looked at the house. It wasn't anything special, just a 2-bedroom bungalow with a porch and a small yard. But she smiled. This is our home now? I nodded. This is our home. I carried her bags inside, and she walked through every room slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, the photos I still had hanging. She stopped at one, Margaret and me on our 30th anniversary. We were standing on a beach in Tofino, her head on my shoulder, both of us smiling. Wanida stared at it for a long time. Your wife, she said softly. She was very beautiful. I nodded. My throat was tight. She was. Wanida turned to me. I will make you happy, Lee. I promise. I will be good wife. I believed her. God, I believed her. The first month was perfect. We went to restaurants, walked along the harbor, drove up to Tofino for a weekend. I introduced her to my neighbors. Bill from next door, Susan from across the street. They were polite, but I could see the questions in their eyes. I didn't care. I was happy. Wanida was happy. That's all that mattered. I didn't introduce her to Sarah yet. I told myself I was waiting for the right time. Really, I was scared. Scared she'd see what everyone else probably saw, an old fool with a young wife. But Wanida made it easy to ignore that voice. She held my hand in public. She laughed at my jokes. She cooked me Thai food and taught me how to use chopsticks properly. At night, she'd curl up against me and whisper, I'm so happy here. So lucky. I thought I'd done it. I thought I'd beaten loneliness. I thought I'd found my second chance. Then things started to change. Small things at first. She was on her phone constantly, always texting, always scrolling. I'd walk into a room and she'd flip the screen down, click it off. Just my father, she'd say. He want to know how I'm doing. I didn't think much of it at first. Of course she was talking to her family. She was homesick. She was adjusting. That was normal. But then she started sleeping in the guest room. The first time, she said she had a headache. I don't want to keep you awake, she said. I just need quiet. I told her it was okay. I understood. The second time, she said she was too hot. Your room very warm. I cannot sleep. The third time, she didn't give a reason. She just took her pillow and left. We stopped having sex. Just stopped. It had never been frequent, but it had been something. Now, it was nothing. When I brought it up, she got defensive. Why you always think about that? You think I am prostitute? You think I only here for sex? I backed off immediately. No, baby, I didn't mean it like that. I just miss being close to you. She crossed her arms. We are close. We live together. We are married. That is close. But it didn't feel close. It felt like we were roommates. Then came the money requests. It started small. $500. My father need more medicine, she said. The doctor changed prescription. New one, very expensive. I didn't hesitate. I sent it. A week later she asked for 1,000. Kasem need help with rent. He lose his job. Just for 1 month. I sent it. Then it was 3,000. She came to me crying, real tears. My father needs surgery. Doctors say his heart very bad. He need operation soon, or he die. $3,000 was a lot. I hesitated. She saw it. Please, Lee, he is my father. Only family I have. If he die, I have nobody. I felt my resolve crumble. How could I say no to that? How could I let her father die over money I had sitting in a bank account? Okay, I said. I'll send it. She threw her arms around me. Thank you. Thank you so much. You save his life. I transferred the money that night, but something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. I started paying closer attention. I noticed she was always on her phone at night, in the bathroom, in the guest room, always typing, always smiling at the screen. I started checking our joint account, the one I'd set up so she could buy groceries and whatever she needed. The balance kept dropping. Fast, I added up the transfers. My stomach dropped. $18,000 in 3 months. Way more than she'd told me about. One night, my friend Graham came over for dinner. He'd known me for 20 years. We used to fish together back when I gave a damn about hobbies. I'd been avoiding him because I knew he'd have opinions. But he showed up with a 6-pack and I couldn't turn him away. Wanida was polite to him, made him dinner, smiled, laughed. But I saw the way Graham watched her, the way he studied every move she made. After she went upstairs, he leaned across the table, kept his voice low. Lee, man, I gotta talk to you. I already knew what was coming. What? He glanced at the stairs. Something's off with her. I felt my defenses go up. What do you mean? He shook his head. She barely looks at you. She's on her phone the whole time. You look miserable. I laughed it off. Tried to anyway. You don't know what you're talking about. She's adjusting. It's hard moving to a new country. Graham didn't buy it. I've known you 20 years. I know when you're lying to yourself. And you're lying to yourself right now. I stood up. I think you should go. He stood too. I'm just trying to help. I walked to the door, opened it. I don't need your help. He left, but his words stayed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Wanida was in the guest room again. I laid there staring at the ceiling, feeling this creeping dread in my stomach. Graham's words kept echoing. You look miserable. She barely looks at you. I got up, went to the bathroom. Her phone was sitting on the counter. She was in the shower. The water was running. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. I tried her birthday as the passcode. Wrong. I tried our anniversary. Wrong. I tried her father's name. Locked. 3 strikes. I put it down and walked away. I felt disgusting. Like I'd already lost something just by trying. A few weeks later, I was paying bills, and I checked our joint account more carefully. I went through every transaction. My heart stopped. $18,000 was gone. Withdrawn. Wired to Thailand. Payments I didn't recognize. Amounts she'd never mentioned. I felt sick. I printed the statement, highlighted the transfers. That night, I waited for her in the living room. When she came downstairs, I was sitting there with the paper in my hand. Wanida, I need you to explain this. I held it up. She barely glanced at it. Then she started crying, just like that. Instant tears. My father almost died, Lee. I had to send money fast. I don't want to worry you. I felt my anger deflate, but I pushed. $18,000? She nodded, wiping her eyes. Surgery very expensive. And Kasem, he have accident on motorcycle. Hospital bill very high. I wanted to believe her. I wanted it so badly. Why didn't you tell me? She sat down next to me. Because you already do so much. I feel so much shame. I don't want you think I only want your money. I held her that night, told her it was okay. Told her we'd get through it together. But it wasn't okay. Something was wrong. I knew it. I could feel it in my bones. I just couldn't admit it yet. A few days later, I was in my office working on some bills. I heard her laughing. Really laughing. The kind of laugh that comes from your belly. Pure, unguarded, happy. I stopped what I was doing. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in months. I walked to the living room. She was on the couch, video call on, speaking rapid-fire Thai. Her face was lit up, animated, smiling. She looked like a completely different person. She looked like the woman I'd met in Chiang Mai. When she saw me, the light died, just like that, switched off. She said something quick in Thai and hung up. "Who was that?" I asked. She didn't look at me. "My cousin." I stepped closer. "You seemed really happy." She shrugged, put her phone down. She'd tell me funny story from village. I didn't believe her. "What story?" She stood up. "Just silly thing. You wouldn't understand." Then she walked past me and went upstairs. I stood there alone in the living room, and I realized something that made my blood run cold. I didn't know this woman. I didn't know her at all. The woman I'd met in Chiang Mai, the one who laughed at my bad Thai and held my hand and called me her angel. She was gone. Or maybe she'd never existed. Maybe I'd just seen what I wanted to see. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept replaying her laugh, that genuine, unguarded laugh. She'd never laughed like that with me, not once since she'd arrived in Canada. I thought about the money, the distance, the locked phone, the guest room. I thought about Graham's words. I felt trapped, not by her, by my own choices, by how much I'd already invested, emotionally, financially. If I was wrong, I'd destroy everything. If I was right, everything was already destroyed. Then I got the Facebook message. It was a Tuesday. I was sitting at my computer, checking email. A notification popped up. Message from Apirak Somchai. I didn't recognize the name. I clicked it. The message was in broken English. "Your wife, my girlfriend, 2 year, you know?" My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen. My hands went numb. There were photos attached. I clicked on the first one. Wanida and some guy, kissing, at what looked like a wedding, traditional Thai clothes, his arms around her smiling. I checked the timestamp. 8 months ago, during our marriage. I clicked the next photo. Them at a beach, her in a bikini, him shirtless, her arms around his neck, same smile she'd given me, same eyes, the same woman. I felt like I was going to throw up. I clicked through the rest, 10 photos total, all of them together. All of them recent, some from before we were married, some from after. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely control the mouse. I walked upstairs. Wanida was lying in bed, scrolling on her phone. I stood in the doorway, held up mine. "Who the hell is Apirak?" She looked at the screen. Her face went white, then red, then stone, all in the span of 3 seconds. "He's lying." Her voice was flat, no panic, no surprise, just cold. "He's obsessed with me. He won't leave me alone. He make fake photos." I stepped into the room. "These photos are from 8 months ago, Wanida. We were already married." She sat up. "He Photoshop. He crazy man. He want to ruin my life." I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't see the timestamps? You think I can't see this is real?" She tried to grab my phone. I pulled back. "Tell me the truth. Right now. Or I swear to God, Wanida, this is over." She stared at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, I saw the real person behind the mask. She wasn't sweet. She wasn't scared. She wasn't the girl from the cafe. She was calculating. Cold. A stranger. "Okay," she said quietly. "Apirak was my boyfriend. Before you. But it's finished. I swear to you. When I meet you, I break up with him." I felt something crack inside me. "Was he your boyfriend when you married me?" She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "No, we break up before." I didn't believe her. I went to her laptop. It was sitting on the dresser. She jumped up. "Don't touch that." But I was faster. I opened it. Went to Facebook. She tried to close it, but I blocked her. I opened her messages, and there it was. Messages to Apirak. From 2 weeks ago, from last month, from 3 months ago, all through our marriage. I scrolled through them. My Thai was terrible, but I recognized enough words. Money, love, soon, miss you. I turned to her. My voice was shaking. You've been seeing him this whole time. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just stood there. He need help. His business struggling. I send him money sometimes, but I don't see him. Just messages. I scrolled more, found photos she'd sent him, selfies, some in my house, some in my car. I felt like I'd been punched. You used my money to help him? She looked away. You don't understand. In Thailand, family is everything. He is like family. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room. I wanted to shake her and demand she tell me the truth. But I just stood there, shaking. Did you ever love me? I asked. My voice cracked. She didn't answer right away. She looked at her hands, picked at her nails. Then she said the words that destroyed me. You gave me a better life. I was grateful. Not love. Grateful. Like I was a charity. Like I was a paycheck. Like I was a means to an end. I walked out of the room, down the stairs, into the living room. I sat on the couch with a bottle of whiskey and I tried to figure out where I went wrong. How did I not see it? How did I let myself become this? A joke. A fool. An ATM with a heartbeat. The next morning, I called a lawyer, told him everything. He listened. Then he said, You want to file for divorce? I said yes. He said he'd draw up the papers. I filed that week. Wanida didn't fight it. She didn't even seem upset. She just packed her things. 2 suitcases and a backpack. Everything she'd brought to Canada. Within a week, she was gone. Back to Thailand, back to Aparak, back to wherever the hell she came from. I thought that was the end of it. I really did. I thought I could move on, lick my wounds, try to salvage whatever was left of my dignity. I changed the locks. I deleted her number. I blocked her on everything. I tried to pretend the last 2 years never happened. But 2 months later, I got a call from a lawyer I didn't know. Mr. Leland, my name is Thomas Chen. I'm representing Wanida Somkid. She's filed a claim for spousal support. I actually laughed, out loud. She's suing me? He sounded uncomfortable. Yes, sir. She's claiming you made promises to support her financially, that you encouraged her to leave her job and her country, that she gave up her life to be with you. She has evidence, emails, text messages. My stomach dropped. What messages? He read a few. Things I'd said. I'll take care of you. You'll never have to worry about money. I want you to feel safe with me. Taken completely out of context, twisted into proof of some contract I never agreed to. Mr. Leland, I need to be honest with you. She has a case, a real one. You were married. You did financially support her. You did bring her to Canada. A judge might rule in her favor. I sat there in stunned silence. How much does she want? He cleared his throat. She's asking for $50,000. $50,000, on top of everything she'd already taken. On top of the $18,000 she'd wired to Thailand. On top of my dignity, my self-respect, my ability to trust another human being. My own lawyer said I could fight it. But it'll cost you, he warned. Legal fees, court costs, discovery. By the time it's done, you might spend more fighting than settling. I thought about it. I thought about dragging this out. About sitting in a courtroom while lawyers argued over whether my heartbreak was worth $50,000. I thought about seeing her again, hearing her voice, watching her lie, under oath. How much can we settle for? I asked. My lawyer made some calls. Came back with a number, $25,000. She'll sign a release. You'll never hear from her again. $25,000. To make her go away. To close this chapter. To never have to think about her again. I agreed. My lawyer said it was a good deal. I didn't feel like it was. I felt like I'd lost everything. I signed the papers, transferred the money, and that was it. She was gone. Really gone. For a few weeks, I didn't leave the house. I didn't answer my phone. I didn't shower. I just sat on the couch, drinking, staring at the wall, trying to figure out how I'd been so stupid. Sarah finally showed up at my door, let herself in with her old key. She found me on the couch, unshaven, half drunk, wearing the same clothes I'd worn for 3 days. "Dad," she said softly. She didn't yell, didn't lecture. She just sat down next to me. "I'm sorry," I finally said. My voice was rough. "I should have listened to you." She took my hand. "I tried to warn you. I really did, but you weren't ready to hear it." I nodded. She was right. I wasn't. "I was just so lonely," I said. "After Mom died, I felt invisible, like I didn't matter anymore. And then Wanida looked at me and I felt like I mattered again." Sarah squeezed my hand. "You do matter, Dad. You always have. You didn't need her to prove that." Graham came by a few days later, brought me a 6-pack and sat on the porch with me. We didn't talk about Wanida. We just drank beer and watched the ocean. At one point, he said, "You gonna be okay?" I didn't know how to answer that. Was I okay? No. Would I be? Maybe. Eventually. "I don't know," I said. He nodded. "Fair enough." The months passed slowly. Sarah insisted I start therapy. I resisted at first. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to sit in some office and explain to a stranger how I'd been played like a fiddle. But she wouldn't let it go. So I went. The therapist's name was Dr. Kim. She was patient. She didn't judge. She just listened. "Why do you think you ignored the red flags?" she asked during our 3rd session. I didn't have a good answer at first, but after a few more sessions it started to become clear. I was terrified of being alone. After Margaret died, I felt invisible, like I didn't matter anymore, like I was just taking up space. And when Wanida looked at me, I mattered. It didn't matter that it wasn't real. It felt real, and I needed it to be real so badly that I made it real in my head. I gave her power because I wanted to believe I still had value to someone. I ignored every warning sign because the alternative was going back to that empty house and that empty life and that crushing loneliness, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. One night, I got a message on Facebook from someone named Boonmi Somkid. She said she was Wanida's aunt. "I am sorry for what happened to you," the message said. "Everyone in village know about a Pirak. They together many years. We think you know too. I feel very bad for you. Wanida, not bad girl. She just want better life. But she should not lie to you." I stared at the message for a long time. Everyone knew. Her whole family knew. They watched me fly over there, watched me meet her father, watched me send money, and nobody said a word. Nobody warned me. They just let me walk around like an idiot, funding their lives while she played me. I wanted to write back. I wanted to ask Boonmi why she didn't tell me, why nobody told me. But what was the point? They needed the money. I was willing to give it. Why would they stop that train? I just closed the laptop, deleted the message, and tried to move on. I think about Wanida sometimes. Not every day anymore, but sometimes. Usually late at night when I can't sleep. I wonder if she's with a Pirek now. I wonder if she's doing the same thing to some other guy. Some other lonely old man who just wants to feel like he matters. I wonder if she ever thinks about me. Probably not. I was just a transaction to her, a means to an end, and I let myself be that. That's the part that kills me. Not that she lied, but that I wanted the lie so badly I helped her sell it. I saw the red flags, the locked phone, the money transfers, the distance, the guest room. I saw all of it. I just chose to ignore it. Because the truth was too painful. Because being alone was too scary. Because I'd rather be used than be invisible. I'm sitting on my porch now, watching the ocean. It's late, almost midnight. The whiskey's almost gone. The stars are out. I can hear the waves. I'm not the same man I was 3 years ago. I'm lonelier. Yeah, I'm definitely poorer. My savings are gone. My trust is gone. But I'm awake now. I see things clearly. I know the difference between love and convenience, between connection and transaction, between someone who sees you and someone who sees what you can give them. I don't hate Wanida. I really don't. I feel something closer to pity. She'll do this again. to someone else, someone just as lonely, just as desperate to matter, just as willing to ignore the obvious because the lie feels better than the truth. And he won't listen to the warnings either, because when you're drowning, you don't question the hand that pulls you up, you just hold on. I pour the last of the whiskey into my glass. I think about Margaret, about the life we had, the real life, the one built on 30 years of honesty and struggle and compromise and showing up even when it was hard. I took it for granted. I thought love was supposed to feel easy, but real love isn't easy. It's work, it's choice, it's boring Tuesday nights and arguing about bills and getting old together. Wanida was easy, and that should have been the biggest red flag of all. I raise my glass to the ocean, to Margaret, to the man I used to be, and to the man I'm becoming. Harder, wiser, more careful, and finally, brutally honest with myself. I don't need to forgive Wanida. That's not what this is about. I need to forgive myself for being human, for wanting to be loved, for believing in something that was never real, for ignoring every sign because I was too scared to face the truth. And maybe, eventually, I will. But tonight, I just sit here, and I let myself feel everything I've been avoiding. The shame, the anger, the grief, the embarrassment, the loss, because that's the only way through. You can't run from it. You can't drink it away. You can't pretend it didn't happen. You just have to sit in it until it doesn't burn anymore. And then, maybe, you can start again. The ocean keeps moving. The stars keep shining. The world keeps turning. And I'm still here, still breathing, still trying to figure out how to be okay with being alone, how to be enough for myself, how to stop looking for someone else to make me feel like I matter. Because the truth is, I do matter. Not because Wanida smiled at me in a cafe, not because I could pay for surgeries and motorcycles and wire money to Thailand, but because I'm here, because I survived Margaret's death, because I survived this, because I'm still capable of feeling, of hoping, of trying. I finish my whiskey, stand up, my knees crack, my back hurts. I'm 65 years old and I've lost more than I care to count, but I'm still standing. And tomorrow, I'll wake up and I'll try again. Not to find love, not to fill the emptiness, just to be here, to be present, to be honest, to be enough. And maybe that's all any of us can do.